Okay, 3, 2.
3, 2, hit it!
It's time to double down with Max and Stacy on Sputnik Radio. Now, coming up on the show, we talk to Python developer and blockchain kid Oliver Morris of Maxcoinproject.org. But first, the ancient admonitory phrase, do as I say and not as I do, is usually directed at children, but more apt to describe how our governments treat their citizens and others. Isn't this correct, Stacy?
Yeah, of course, you look at the United States and we have the largest prison population in the world because everything is against the law here. But of course, we do all sorts of equivalent to peoples around the world. But there's another thing is that we've had the introduction of cryptocurrencies, started with Bitcoin back in 2009. And a lot of governments have warned us that evildoers use Bitcoin. And then they finally realized how great it is. And they're like, well, we're just going to ban or make it difficult for ordinary people to get involved. But you have to look at the actions that they're taking because everybody has noted that China has cracked down on cryptocurrencies, they say. But if you actually look at what they're doing, where they're putting their money into blockchain. Chinese blockchain accelerator offers startups millions of dollars in subsidies. The blockchain industrial park in the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou has announced subsidies for startups worth millions of dollars in an announcement on Thursday, May 24th. As shown by the new policy, the industrial park is aiming to attract blockchain space talent by offering individuals and startups generous incentives. Highly qualified blockchain specialists, for example, are being offered resettlement allowances of up to $490,000. That's just for your living expenses.
Right. So the Chinese government is really understanding that there's a lot of potential here. Of course, the overall politics in China is kind of an interesting contrast to some other countries, the U.S. being one of them. I think the U.S. would do well by emulating China and throwing a lot of money into this space, but keeping in mind some values that are more germane to America. But since America seems to be sitting on the sidelines for this one, they risk being completely sidelined as this new technology, as revolutionary as the dot-com technology, kind of takes over the global economy.
Well, certainly China, many say, looking at the geopolitics, is the next empire after the U.S. or the next superpower after the U.S. And the article says that although Chinese government policy remains notoriously tough on cryptocurrency trading, momentum in China's blockchain space has been gathering pace in recent months. In March, a government memorandum was leaked detailing plans to create an international blockchain investment development center. And in February, news broke of a patent filed by the state-run Bank of China for a solution to scale blockchain technology system. So if people are right and China is the next world superpower, it's interesting to think what we do know that they don't want their own domestic currency, the yuan, the renminbi, to be a global reserve currency in the same sort of fashion as the US dollar, because that causes a lot of disruption domestically in terms of manufacturing and having to have a trade deficit. But perhaps this is the future. This is the future that they want to see, a blockchain cryptocurrency interoperability world. So you know who else is the future, Max? And that is our guest, Oliver Morris. We met this kid, if we can call him a kid. He is just 15 years old. We met him when he was 14 online. We've never met him in person, but he is working on Maxcoinproject.org. He's a Python developer, and we're going to turn to him and find out how it is, Oliver. You're only 15 years old, and yet you have an extensive history already in cryptocurrency. Tell us how you first got involved in cryptocurrency.
Well, I think the first time I got into crypto would have been when I watched Chris Ellis on the Kaiser Report. I tweeted to him and he got me into all of the Raspberry Pi full node project, which is my first sort of experience in Bitcoin. But I have known about Bitcoin since 2011 when you first started talking about it on the Kaiser Report. But being 8 years old then, I wasn't too interested in technology or programming. But yeah, it's really fun working with Max and Stacy. And then I met the lead developer of Maxcoin, David Serrano.
Okay, well, let me interrupt there because so you're saying when you were 8 years old, you first learned about Bitcoin on Kaiser Report. When Max and I were about the similar age, we learned about the US dollar as a totally fiat currency. We went off the gold standard for the first time in hundreds of years. There was no global gold standard to tether the reserve currency of a particular nation. So that was a radical change and shift, wasn't that, Max?
Well, I was going to say when I was 8 years old, the big technology at that time was silly putty. If you remember, it's silly putty. It comes in a plastic egg, and you can use it to copy the comics in the newspaper because it picked up the print from the newspaper, and then you could stretch it and play with it. And it wasn't immutable, and it wasn't a blockchain. It was silly putty, and we have come a long way since then.
Well, of course, Max, when you were 9 years old, the big technology was putting a man on the moon, but there was nowhere for you to basically explore that on your own. You couldn't go explore outer space because you needed all sorts of training. Now, Oliver, you, of course, how did you begin to train yourself to participate in this blockchain cryptocurrency space? Chris Ellis, you were working with him on full nodes. For those in the audience who might not know what a full node is, tell us what you actually did with these Bitcoin full nodes.
Well, we installed the Bitcoin full node on a Raspberry Pi. So it's the blockchain and the Bitcoin core. And then we would program the blockchain, and we would also write like Python scripts and those different things. And one of the first, I was quite one of the early people that were writing bash scripts for installing cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. I actually wrote one for Startcoin back in 2016. So I've actually been, I suppose, involved kind of in your sort of space, or trying to help different developers. But
well, okay, you act like Max and I know how to develop a blockchain. What's a bash script? Tell us what a bash script is.
A bash is a programming language similar to like the command line interface. So you can just kind of type in the entire. So if you have Linux, you could do stuff like if the Git repo of Bitcoin. So you would Git clone the repo, and then you can compile it using a bash script. So it's kind of automatic instead of manually installing the blockchain.
All right, well, let's talk more about Maxcoin. It's got SHA-3, Schnorr signatures, and a Komodo gravity well since 2014. These are still considered advanced algorithms. We're still learning about these as well 4 years later. So tell us why Maxcoin in particular and not another of the close to 2,000 coins out there has got you and the team excited.
I think I first heard of Maxcoin on the old Kaiser Report episodes with obviously the original developers. And then I met David. I think I can't remember. I think I tweeted to David about 2 or 3 years ago. And then we started talking. And I'm really interested in SHA-3 and the Schnorr signatures. And I remember all about obviously the original algorithm being SHA-256 when it was forked. And then Nigel Smart obviously changing the algorithm because of the NSA. But yeah, and obviously David has really helped me a lot. And I think I was one of the first Maxcoin, like modern Maxcoiners on the team from about a year and a half ago, 2 years.
Okay, let me interrupt there because, of course, David Serrano is the lead developer of Maxcoin. So how... this fascinates us as well. When we launched Maxcoin on Kaiser Report, we did that because at the time in 2014, there was a sudden explosion in new altcoins. We had just barely got our heads around Bitcoin, and then suddenly there was Litecoin, there was Namecoin, we created Maxcoin. They showed it on the show in order to teach the audience how to create a cryptocurrency. So then it kind of petered out and died because nobody was maintaining the coin. That's another thing, is you actually have to spend a lot of time maintaining the coin. This is a fascinating subject to me, is that there are all sorts of people who contribute to Bitcoin, and there's a whole team now that contributes to Maxcoin. Explain why you contribute. There's no monetary, you're not paid to contribute, you just contribute. Is it because you want the learning experience, because you believe in cryptocurrency, because this is just the way of being now?
Working with David and all the really great Maxcoin contributors, the tech behind it and the whole team is amazing. And I think it's great. I've been able to meet new people. I believe way in the coin. I think it's a really great coin. The tech behind it is amazing. And I think it's a great experience working on wallet development and blockchain development and all these great commits to different projects to do with Maxcoin. been a great experience, and I'm really glad we're working on decentralized exchanges and all the BISC integrations. And it's cool with all the Maxcoin stuff is really, at first it was harder because I was kind of learning new languages, but it's helped me to learn the proper source code language of Bitcoin and other currencies in C++ or C for Maxcoin.
So you started working with David, and you were working via these, there's various ways of meeting people online now, like Telegram groups and Reddit groups and GitHubs and things like that. But you were actually working on it, and it took him a while to realize that at the time you were only 13 years old.
Yeah, 13 years old. I first started working with him, but I think he was quite shocked when I first said that. But then obviously he knew how enthusiastic I was and how much I knew, I suppose, for my age. But it's not like, my dad's really advised me. It's really helped me through my programming and my homeschooling as well. But I'm glad I'm homeschooled. My dad's not a programmer, but he knew the future in technology, and obviously with Bitcoin and then obviously getting involved in Maxcoin. I'm really glad that I've met all these people.
All right, so you mentioned homeschooling there. Most in the cryptocurrency space are self-taught. So tell us more about that.
Well, I suppose if I was at school, it would have been so hard for me to really get this much into programming, because you need a lot of time to really, I suppose, get this much involved and really I'm really dedicated to it. There wouldn't have been courses or much resources in school. But yeah, being homeschooled, I've able to really learn and take the time to really learn on what I want to do.
So, that's the thing, is I learned how to edit our television content via necessity. So if I wanted to edit and deliver the show in the way I wanted, I needed to learn how to edit. And what I basically did is just started doing it and using YouTube. People had uploaded their own videos on how to do certain things, like how to cut and paste, how to change your timeline, things like that. And that's how I taught myself. And now the same thing with cryptocurrencies. I see in the Maxcoin project, for example, the Maxcoin project Telegram group, you see all these discussions, and you could just follow it if you want to just observe, or you could participate and ask questions. And do you only look at the technology, or are you also thinking of monetary policy? Because this is a radical revolution in monetary history.
I do love the technology behind each thing. And as you said, from YouTube, that's how I originally learned programming. Like there's loads of YouTube tutorials and courses. There wasn't much on Bitcoin, or really back when 2014-15, there was some videos on installing Bitcoin, but I've had to really dig deep in learning about Bitcoin with GitHub repos and contacting the main developers. And obviously I've written scripts with, I suppose, Peter Toll and all the original Bitcoin developers. And it's hard to really, that's why I kind of want to set up, like I said to you a few times, set up something that I can, or like a course teaching people about blockchain, and of different categories of like advanced students or intermediary, and kind of getting the basics of things. But as you said, there's not much courses.
Right. I think that's a project, actually, talking with David regarding StartCoin, is that StartCoin will be more involved in this kind of portal to allow people to do what you do and have the experience that you've had. And you're getting quite a rewarding experience, Oliver. This is really quite satisfying for you. You have really, this is something you can recommend, I guess you could say.
Yeah, of course. I'm kind of, as my main goal would be kind of influence others similar age or the same mentality as me, have the influence to really get into programming, but where to start. That's kind of like my main thing would be to help other people, which it kind of is a good thing. And obviously I am very dedicated to what I do. And with StartCoin, yeah, as I said, I've kind of written things for 2 years ago with StartCoin, and I was speaking to some of the developers back then, but I suppose they were kind of quite busy, or they didn't really, my age was kind of, I suppose a lot of people were shocked when they hear about my age or how much I'm into crypto.
All right. Well, this is all part of HeisenbergCap.com, the website that you created as well. Thank you so much for that. And people can go there for lots more information, and that's the directory. And that's going to do it for this episode of Double Down with me, Max Kaiser, and Stacey Herbert on Sputnik Radio. Thanks to our guest, Oliver Morris of MaxCoinProject.org. Until next week. Bye, y'all.